ahead. So I seeing a quorum, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Thursday, March 4th, 2021 of Economic Development Commission. And I'm going to do a roll call. Bill Groves, Commissioner.
Paul McGurk, Commissioner.
Craig Millen, Commissioner.
George Matheno, Commissioner.
I think Justin did say his name, but we didn't hear him. So Justin, if you just repeat it on record. You don't know where the mute button is, I guess.
Justin Primo. Thanks, Bill. Justin Primo, present. Commissioner.
Thank you much. Let's see. So that was 4. Where's my other? Did we get 5 in there, Lauren? I didn't. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay, so we're going to start the meeting tonight. Public communications. It's always nice to have someone that come in and speak. I'm just going to start beforehand. Lauren, we have no one outside of Sheri on for public communications?
No.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'd like to introduce Sheri Cote. It is Cote, right? She is the Regional Economic Development Manager for Sector. We had an opportunity to sit down last week in our pre-meeting and to kind of go over what she's brought on board for. And Nancy Kauser is also, who is the Executive Director of Sector also. Very, very important organization for economic development in our area. And this is something that they've gotten grants for to expand off on. And if I remember correctly, they're not just covering the southeastern Connecticut, but I think they also go up to the northeastern portion of it, and I can be corrected on that. But so I'm going to turn it over to Sheri to introduce herself and just tell a little bit about what her focus is going to be in our region, and we'll go from there. So Sheri, take it away.
Thank you, Bill, and good evening, everyone. It's nice to see all of your faces this evening. I'm actually going to kick it over to Nancy. She is the Executive Director for Sector, and she'll talk a little bit about what Sector does, an overview, and introduce, sort of what my position, why I'm here with Sector, and then I'll take it from there. So Nancy, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Hi, Nancy.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening to many friends and supporters and critical components of the work that we do. So thank you for your invitation today. So for those of us who don't know Sector is the Southeastern Connecticut Enterprise Region, and we're the region's economic development organization, sometimes called an EDD or an EDO. We're certified by the Economic Development Agency of the Department of Commerce, called EDA, so it's like alphabet soup, Department of Economic and Community Development, and the Office of Policy and Management. So all three, including the COG, have to approve our work and our designation. Our primary role under that designation is to write, facilitate, implement, and report on the region's comprehensive economic development strategy, CEDS, another alphabet soup. And why is that important? It's a 5-year plan. Next update due November 2022. And it's important. It's not just a plan that sits on the shelf, because EDA is the primary funding source of economic development grant and loan funding, including infrastructure, technical assistance, and other economic injury remediation programs. And a region can only have EDA funded projects, sorry, my clock is not in sync, EDA funded projects if there's a CEDS. So that if there's no CEDS, there's no EDA funded projects in the region. In addition, as the Economic Development District, we must support and recommend any EDA projects that come out of our region. And support takes a lot of different levels. So for Groton, which is one of our premier municipal members, it is everything that we can do to support a project out of Groton. Deep dives, close coordination with EDA, data, hand-holding, grant writing support, whatever is needed. And then support dwindles down for folks that are not municipal members, standard developers, things that aren't of huge impact to our municipal members, just to letters of support and to, just tying things into the CEDS. Groton, we work really closely with, and the most recent example of that is with Yukon Avery Point, that we have worked with for 2 years to get an EDA project over the finish line. It is finally being submitted in draft form now, and it is to find a way to build a facility on the Avery Point campus that will help to commercialize research in the undersea and blue tech environment. So hugely important for our region and for the town of Groton, and we're excited to see that coming over the finish line. We are currently supporting 12 projects in total. The most recent one that came on board of regional significance is trying to find a highest and best use for Crystal Mall. We were doing projects, everything from a cultivator kitchen to an incubator to something like the Crystal Mall and what can be done there. We also support municipal members with deep dives into data for projects of importance to them. So they can be for the municipality itself, or in the case of Groton, it would be the Restler Homes Mystic Oral School project. And we've been working very closely with them, providing tons of data. I think we provided a 200-page report for them that was anything from traffic studies to demographics to tapestry data about the buying habits of people in the community. And they are actually, Chuck Corsi is going to be presenting to our Economic Development Committee on Tuesday evening. So we're very excited to support that. But we've done a number of projects in Groton under that purview. And again, that would be something that a municipal member would have special access to that we normally don't give. We also provided economic multiplier data to Groton. We purchased that data and are providing that to our municipal members. We do site finding. So a recent example is for BioCT, which lost its primary tenant. And we posted that with Advanced CT for free and have been providing leads to them for potential occupants for that space. And then, as Sheri mentioned, we received for economic development, since we were in good standing with EDA, CARES Act funding to help support regional recovery. And we hired Sheri under that position. We're also adding data tools, including that multiplier, economic multiplier tool. And I'll turn it over to Sheri after I give you a brief overview of sector to talk a little bit about what she's doing. But there's special focus on our municipal members and recovery work and businesses in those regions. As Paige knows, we have a very vibrant lending program. We currently have about $6 million of our own money in a revolving loan fund for businesses that aren't quite bank ready. So that's the important thing. It's those businesses that really can't walk into a dime bank or even Berkshire and get a loan. And it could be because the credit isn't quite where it needs to be. It's still a little bit new to justify its hopes and dreams, or it's an industry that isn't easy to lend to. Agriculture, aquaculture, fishing boats, marinas, things like that. And notably in Groton, Mystic Cheese and Beard Brewing are two of our clients. And we worked really closely to make sure that that happened. That was a really difficult construction project that frankly, we probably wouldn't have done if it wasn't a Groton business. It was really, really a tough deal to get together. Because during COVID, in addition to the economic development recovery money we received, we also received almost $2 million in new lending funds. And that is specifically for CARES or for COVID recovery efforts. Now, what that doesn't mean is bailing a business out that just needs money to pay its bills. What it's for is for, say a business would have been more resilient if they had certain software package, certain tools, a certain configuration in their office. Or there's an opportunity to pivot. We've done a number of loans for folks that suddenly could make PPEs. We had a major client who was instrumental in COVID testing. Or there's an opportunity to take on a new business line. We have a construction client who suddenly got into IKEA type furniture for home offices because there was a huge demand and a supply chain glut or a supply chain issue with that nationally. So those are the types of loans that we're doing right now under that COVID money. We're pushing the money out very quickly. Rates are very competitive. And for Groton and other municipal members, the fees for the product are much lower than they are for other non-members. Lending is an area that we do provide lending up into Northeastern Connecticut, but we have extra funds. Sorry, I'm embarrassed with my clocks. We have extra funds for the Southeastern Connecticut region. So Southeastern Connecticut is our primary focus. But what's helpful is we do have some Southeastern Connecticut businesses that have sister businesses up in the Northeast, and it's really great to be able to fund a project for them up there. All of our funding is recapitalized. So it means all the principal that we get in gets turned right back around into lending. And we like to talk about the Guard Arts. We did a loan for them of $5 million many years ago, and that's been turned around into 20 new loans as they have recapitalized. As a community lender, what we've also been able to do is help businesses through COVID with very generous deferral programs, including full payments, interest only, tacking payments on to the end of the loan term to help them survive. We have quite a number of businesses in our region that are doing that still, ranging from one business has been in deferral phase for a year now. They just need it in order to be able to survive, and we're confident that they'll be able to pick it up. Because we have multiple funding streams, including EDA, municipal contributions, grants, we're able to do that in a way that we can still survive as a business, but provide that community support. And that's what's different about us as a lender. It's a community impact program, not a revenue generating program, though it certainly does generate some interest income. So that is our loan program. We also, in June, executed a subcontract with the Small Business Development Center to hire and house an SBDC counselor in our Groton office. She serves all of New London County. She has a background, she is a business owner herself. She has a coffee shop. She also has a background in fashion and apparel and in manufacturing. So she's been an incredible addition to our staff. And that contract has just been renewed. So we were very grateful to SBDC to let us do that. We're the only one in the state that has that subcontract. And then we have a statewide program called the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, which last year, our 500 to 600 clients brought in $250 million in government contracts, which represents over $15 million of tax revenue for the state. So that's a hugely important program. And I'll give you some Groton numbers in a minute. But we now have multiple services under one roof. And that's been our dream, is to really have that no wrong door, come to us, and we can provide everything from startup support to growth lending. We're seeing a significant increase in cross referral of services among our clients, which has been really incredible. For example, a lot of clients don't realize that the government buys everything. So we have a chocolate maker who now is a government contractor. So that's been really, really wonderful. So specific to Groton, last fiscal year in lending, we provided technical assistance to 8 small businesses. And that means 8 small businesses came to us looking for lending, but our terms were not as favorable for them and their specific product as other lenders. So we got their packages ready and passed them on to other lenders so that they could be best served. We offered pandemic payment deferral to 6 Groton small businesses, and 2 of them are still in deferral state. For PTAC, we assisted 17 Groton business clients, provided 89 hours of procurement technical assistance, and those clients got $2.7 million in contract awards. Those clients also gave us a satisfaction rating of 5 out of 5, which was pretty awesome. In just a few short months from June, July, and August, our SBDC counselor was already connected with 5 small businesses in Groton, and that's grown from there. Providing assistance with business planning, marketing, financial analysis. And we highlighted a Groton business in our Stories of Resilience at our annual meeting. We have certainly increased our service to Groton. We're looking to do more, and I think including these new services under our roof, since we're right in Groton, helps us really be more of an asset. I don't know if you want me to take questions now, or you want me to turn it over to Sheri in regards to COVID specific work. Bill, I think you're muted. We're going to get one of those mugs. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I found my button. Why don't you turn it over to Sheri just so she can introduce herself, and then we can do questions to either of you.
Excellent. So we were delighted, thrilled, jumping up and down to welcome Sheri to our team in November. This is under our CARES Act funding to add technical assistance support for economic development in our region. You probably all know Sheri. She was previously the vice president at the Chamber of Commerce of Eastern Connecticut, and then after that led a chamber on the shoreline. She wanted to come back to this community very much, and she hit the ground running like I never expected. She's a tremendous asset to us, and we're thrilled to have her on board. So Sheri, take it away.
Thank you so much, Nancy. And I'll be brief. I know some of you might have some questions for Nancy, but thanks so much for having us tonight. I am fairly new. I'm going to still use that, even though it's been a couple of months, but I have sort of hit the ground running. Part of my job is to reach out to EDCs like yours and your staff. So the first call I made was to Paige. Because I've known him for a while, and just because I need to check in with our towns, our municipalities, see how things are going and how sector can serve. And so some of the projects that we have worked on since I started, New London identified a need for sector to assist them in marketing their foreign trade zone. They expanded their trade zone to include all of southeastern Connecticut. All of Eastern Connecticut. Now I'm confused. Thank you, Nancy. And so we jumped right in and we hosted a webinar for them that took place last week. We had 80 people register for this webinar on foreign trade zone, if you can imagine that. And so they were thrilled with our service, and that really was a support role. We just were helping them out. In Norwich, we identified a need. They are a little short-staffed at the moment, and they are trying to give money away to their small businesses with their community block grants. So we're working to support their efforts and doing some underwriting for their grant applicants. Yesterday we met with a developer in Preston to sort of talk through some ideas that he has to develop a property that he owns. And so we're working with their director of planning to help him navigate that. In Stonington, we're working with the EDC. We're actually doing a presentation just like this next week, but they've already looped us into a project that they are doing for Exit 90. Just trying to come up with a strategic plan for that exit, make it, a little bit more welcoming to the tourists and people that are coming into town when they exit that area. So that's just the beginning. Like I said, I'm fairly new, but I continue to make the rounds and listen to hear how sector can support. Every time we do one of these, I hear Nancy talk about all the good work sector can do, and I learn more. So one of these days, I'll be able to give a presentation like that, hopefully, and sound that good. But thank you so much for having us tonight, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Sheri.
This is why we love her.
So I'll open it up to the commission. If any questions of either Sheri, or open it up. George, you have a question? Susan.
Yeah, just Nancy, I don't know if you remember, we met a while ago.
We
Steve.
did.
Yeah, nice to see you again. And when you talk about the different businesses that you're supporting in terms of navigating through the PPP and those kinds of CARES Act opportunities, do you see is there any limit to the size? I mean, what are you seeing? Is it the small businesses, medium? I mean, what's the trend?
So the trend is businesses that didn't realize that they could qualify, and particularly like sole proprietors or really small businesses, or just didn't have the time to put the application together. On the surface, it seems super complicated. I'll tell you, the Norwich grant application is super complicated. So it's really sitting down, hand-holding, and helping people understand how to fill out the applications. We spent a lot of time with a couple of businesses that were applying, women-owned businesses that were applying for the Small Business Development Center program. And literally what we had to do, the site crashed. So we had to find that number behind the number for the person that was accepting applications to make sure that those applications actually got in and were accepted. So it really is the smaller, right now it's the smaller businesses that got overwhelmed last time or missed the deadline or the system froze before they could get their applications in, and hand-holding them through the process this time around. We are working with a couple of businesses that are going for a second tranche of the PPP, and helping them make sure that their books are in order to be ready for forgiveness.
Oh, I don't have that.
And we personally had a PPP loan, actually with Berkshire, and had a wonderful experience in the forgiveness process. It took a while, but we have personal experience doing this ourselves. And Judith, our SBDC counselor herself, had 3 PPP loans for different businesses. So, and our accountant has actually worked with 17 businesses in PPP forgiveness. So we kind of have that feet on the street, hands-on. This is how you really do it.
Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of times the smaller businesses, I think they're so busy trying to just run their business and or deal with the, you know, the impact that they don't have a person to actually be devoted to researching and figuring out how to navigate those opportunities. So thanks, Nancy, for answering the question.
Great, thank you. It's nice seeing you again.
Thank you, Susan.
You too. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Justin.
Justin, you have a question? I can't see. So I'm looking for the hand raise.
Yeah, I raised my hand.
Good.
I unmuted myself. Nancy, I don't know about sector. I'm a business owner. I have 2 questions.
Oh, that would be the best thing.
Are you hearing my son in the background? I'm sorry, he's being toured right now. Sorry.
I don't know anything about sector except what I heard tonight. Are you guys a nonprofit? Or are you a government agency?
Yeah.
We are a nonprofit, a 501c3.
Okay. And my second question is,
You do.
I've heard a lot of talk, you mentioned the Crystal Mall,
Mhm.
Cold too.
and I've heard a lot of talk about Amazon taking it over.
So that is a rumor that is swirling around. We have not been able to confirm said rumor, and the planning department has not heard from Amazon. So they would be most interested to find out what Amazon's interest might be. And actually, to be honest with you, Sheri was the one that heard that rumor and notified Waterford. And they were like, oh, really? Now, what Amazon sometimes does is they put job ads in local communities, making it look like they're moving into a community, but they're actually trying to get employees into other sites. So that as of today, it has not been confirmed, but the rumor keeps getting bigger and bigger. So we'll see.
But Brooklyn, New York felt the same way about Amazon, that they were coming there.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of potential with the Crystal Mall. I mean, between the location, the probable lack of brownfields or any kind of contamination there, other than under the car dealership or the car repair and Sears had. But there's a tremendous amount of interest, and it's for the region's best interest that we find out what the highest and best use might be.
Well,
You know,
I
within-
think
yeah.
the amount of jobs it would potentially supply.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The only thing footnote on the Amazon is the Crystal Mall doesn't fit the parameters they like of proximity to a major airport.
Right.
So that was when the rumors came out. That's the first thing that I got back from it. Is just like, well, it doesn't fit their normal,
The
parameters.
normal MO.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's nice to banter it around, I guess.
Yeah. I think they need a
Well,
distribution
Bill-
center
Bill-
just to deliver to me.
Right. Well, yeah, I got the same problem here, Nancy, in my house. I see that smiley
Sorry.
face almost every day when I get home. Other
Bill,
questions?
Groton actually has a surprisingly long runway for a small town.
They do. And we have the rail and the port. I mean, there's a lot of pluses. Yeah.
Nancy, question,
Sure, Craig.
with the high prospect of additional COVID relief, maybe by March 14th, is it automatic that those funds would also flow through you? Would you have a role in connecting to those?
Absolutely. So there is certainly rumor of new COVID funds coming down the pike through EDA. So there will be more opportunities for infrastructure, economic injury, TA type of grants that we would certainly be happy to speak to Groton about in terms of what the potential is. We may also receive some additional EDA funds to help with recovery. We don't know what that might look like. But at the very least, it's looking like EDA is going to get more money.
And if so, you'd have a way of letting all of the respective communities know what's coming and what you've got.
Absolutely. We got a heads up 2 days ago to queue up the Waterford Crystal Mall grant ASAP because they could potentially have a lower match requirement. Absolutely, as soon as we have more detail, Sam and Paige will be the first to know.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Susan?
Yeah, just Nancy, is there, I'm not really clear about how a business that gets support and help from you, if there's a cost, a fee, or how does that work? Is it just sort of not, there's no associated cost?
There's no cost for PTAC or for the SBDC program. For lending, it's a very small application fee. There is no origination fee. Very competitive rates depending on the risk of the business. Our counseling services are free. Our lending services are very low cost. And I want to mention our lending services, we do partner with banks all the time. For example, Berkshire might say, I'm interested in the real estate, but not the equipment sector. Would you do the equipment? And we partner very, very often to get deals done with multiple partners.
Oh, that's great. How many employees are there at your location now? I know that you had like 5 or 6 or something?
In Groton, we have 5. Overall, we have others throughout the state for PTAC. So overall, we have 10.5 FTEs.
Okay, thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Okay, I see no more hands up. Yep. Where am I?
Just
I
a
missed
quick
one?
comment, just to be clear, I think when Nancy talks about partnering with banks, I'm not an expert in how they handle this, but my understanding is it comes down to risk and liability. So
Right.
If there's a startup that a bank can't handle, it doesn't meet their underwriting, that's one scenario. But another scenario would be a business that might have a little bit more risk. And Nancy, is it correct that sector might take on some of the highest risk that would enable a traditional lender to also partner?
Absolutely. So as an example, we did a marina recently where the bank was perfectly comfortable with the real estate, but the business needed working capital as well. And the bank had no interest in that. So we did that piece of it, and we're not in first position. And we managed the whole process. Even though we had a small piece of the pie, we managed the entire process for all the bank partners. And that was we only did that, again, it was a member municipality, or else we would never have taken that level of risk. It was a good risk. It's a very good loan, but that's a great example. And thanks for clarifying that, Paige.
Nancy, just a suggestion. From visiting your office some number of times, I know you've got some material that describes sector, and there are only 5 of us who are here tonight. Would it be possible for you to send something on that describes what all you're doing to the commission so that we can share it with all the rest?
Absolutely. I have a very brief PowerPoint that lists all our programs. I just have to add contact points. You have contacts for each program, but I'm happy to do that. And then on our website is a link to our annual report, all the videos we did and things like that. So I'd be more than happy to do that.
That'd be great. Thanks.
You're a great resource, Nancy. It's just great to hear all of that, and especially the support during this critical time last year and ongoing.
Thank you. I think it's important for the council to know too how critical the Groton staff are to our success. I mean, Paige and Sam are unbelievable. Anytime we need anything, they jump to it. So you're very fortunate to have such great assets in the town and the city, and Sierra in the city as well. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, we know. We don't want them to go anywhere. So hopefully,
no, we'll help with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Nancy,
Hi, George.
will you come back in August to say that again so that we can give these gentlemen a raise at the end of the year?
Absolutely.
So that's number one. And number two, I'm glad to know that Bill Grove's other name is not Bill Grinch from Berkshire,
No,
that you guys are helpful over there. So it's not Grinch.
not at all. Just the opposite. His team has been amazingly helpful. They were helpful to us with PPP and a number of other banking transactions that we've had with them. It's been a great relationship.
So the third question, so we now rolled out in the state for the life science at CEI. We sort of renamed it and we're rolling it out as a new initiative. Has anybody from CI or CT Next reached out to you about
Not
trying
yet.
to
Nope, nope, but please have them do so. And George, I know you and I have been playing telephone tag on another matter too, and we will get together. That's the problem with COVID is just having to rely on Zoom instead of being able to just kind of pop in someone's office and actually see them. So it was nice to see some of those restrictions get lifted as of the 19th. So that's good news. Mhm.
So I'll get somebody from, ideally from CI to reach out to you
Excellent.
and to follow up because New Haven and us here are the hub.
Yes.
And with this COVID situation, with AstraZeneca buying Alexion, we have expanded, Connecticut has expanded its footprint in the global vaccine stage. We've actually punched our weight above, or rather punched above our weight in the realm
Yes.
of COVID vaccine. And we would like to be able to engage as many of the vaccine suppliers around the state because they provide vaccine intelligence as they evolve each and every strain. And it's important that these vaccine intelligence gets shared, and there's no way to do it then we try and create some kind of a relationship across the state for all of the vaccine R&D entities in the state.
So George, one of the things that we can talk about offline is EDA just re-released their build to scale competitive grant application. And I wonder if there's an opportunity to think about that program and what you're talking about. So we'll take that offline, but there might be a pretty significant.
If you want to
grant
call me
opportunity.
tomorrow afternoon or Monday.
Sure. I'll give you a call Monday. I'm in a training tomorrow, but I will do that.
Okay. Seeing no more hands. We had kind of planned to do this just for a 10-minute, thing, but I really, it's no. I appreciate it because this is really what we should be talking about at our meetings. And it's really good to learn and to reemphasize of some of the resources that we have for businesses that we are out talking to. And I know, even though George likes to throw barbs at the banker, I have worked with sectors as long as I can remember, and they're just a phenomenal resource from a bank standpoint, because even though people think that we don't, we truly want business to do well and succeed, but sometimes it doesn't fit our parameters, and we have partnered on more than one occasion and support sector because it's a great asset that we have in our backyard. And I don't think we let enough people know it. So when we do meet businesses, I would encourage everyone to throw it out there, because the most I find when I talk to businesses, they really don't know what the resources are out there at this point. So thank you, Nancy. Very welcome to you, Sheri. I'm sure we will be seeing more of you. And we will move on in the meeting. Thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you all
Bill,
so much.
Bill, can
Thank
I
you,
say one
Nancy.
thing?
You can say one thing, Justin.
As a business owner, I have never heard of Sector. And I
So
have
you are
business in
absolutely
Groton.
right. Yep, you are absolutely right. One of our greatest faults is not tooting our own horn enough, and you'll see that change over the next year. And that truly is where Sheri brings a tremendous amount of strength to us, is her knowledge of outreach and telling the story and things like that. So shame on us, and you're exactly right. You'll see that changing.
I'm saying that as a business owner in town. Never heard of you.
No,
I think
thank you.
And
Sheri-
I was asking you questions.
Well, you
Just-
have now.
I think Sheri
Yes,
is going to start.
I know now.
I think Sheri will start a Guinness round later this week.
Absolutely.
All right,
Nancy,
Sheri.
Nancy might be getting a call from me.
Oh, I would love it. Please do.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the approval of the meetings from February the 4th.
Bill,
Yes.
Bill, I have a question before you said something a little while before I apologize. I had another call that I was trying to cut off. You said businesses are unaware about something just before we cut off with Nancy. Businesses needed some information. What was that?
Well, the information is what I find when I'm out talking with businesses. They don't know it's a resource. And in my line of business, I'm dealing with that, the lending and the support and such. So I do come in contact with a lot more. So if that group that I speak with, if they're not aware, I would imagine that goes to a Justin or anything like. So we got to make sure that we make sure people are aware of it. And that's what I say it all the time.
So your folks are not familiar with sector? Your folks even?
The banks are. Most of the banks around here utilize sector, but we see usually it's the people that come to us, and then we sometimes say, hey, this is a place I would refer you over to because you're not bank ready. Not to mean you're not going to be bank ready in the future, and that's where sector is a great segue for that, because they do get businesses up and running as long as you got the business plans. And the idea is that we'll work hand in hand sometimes with them. The marina deal is a perfect example of that. We'll do the property. We don't do the capital, the line of credit, and we work function. So I've been aware of sector for many, many years.
And how about SBDC?
No, not as much, but that's on a different level with the bank. So other bank departments probably deal with them more than I would.
All right.
That's all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to move on and try to keep it going with the approval of the minutes from February the 4th. Did everyone have a chance to review them? And if there are any additions, subtractions, yes, Susan.
I make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed? Craig, did you have a statement or were you approving? Okay, just making sure. Okay, moving on. So this is a great segue of having, and we discussed this at our meeting with Sheri, and Nancy wasn't there, but she'll be included. So I really want to get our quarterly forums up and running. We've talked about it. We've done our best through the COVID thing, and I'm trying to look past it. So I thought it was a great opportunity with Sheri coming on board with Sector and some of the programs that they have, and to offshoot her idea of we got to get out and market themselves, is to do our first forum with them, and what they would provide on the forum. And it's kind of still in a discussion phase, but I'd like to move it pretty quickly, but is to have Nancy there being the executive director. There's the overview. Sheri as the economic development liaison, have you, and also Annie, who does the commercial lending, to give people an understanding of exactly the products that she does and works with. Because as I said, I find that most businesses aren't aware of it, and just to give it the forum to be able to get out there and have people be able to ask the questions. Perfect example of with Justin being on the commission and not being aware of it. That also get the information that people were looking for, the brochure, the PowerPoint, for us to have in our quiver when we go out to businesses. So that's what my tentative plan is for the initial forum. Would love to try to pull it off, because we've shown that we can do it in a short period of time, because of our staff and the template that we utilize. And what we would ask all of you, of course, is to do the same thing. Outreach to the businesses that have been assigned, have something to hand them, and try to drive people to it. Also, with that being said, Nancy made mention, and I didn't have a chance to read in specifically to what the pullback on some of the restrictions, to start thinking about maybe having face-to-face meetings sooner than later. And I'm not saying next month necessarily, but as we go on, because I think the Zoom meetings are kind of a little bit losing their luster as far as I'm concerned. I'm on enough of them all the time, and I would like to get try to bring back the at least the meetings themselves, because we can still give our distance with each other. If someone's not comfortable, we can still have them come in on Zoom. But I'd like to try to look, what are we going to look like post-COVID? Because with the understanding of vaccine numbers are coming up, the Johnson & Johnson coming online. Even myself, I think my appointment is for the 20th, and they even said to me it'll probably be earlier. I think when we get in towards the May, June timeframe, we'll have a better indicator, and I'm sure that the state will give us better guidance that maybe we can start bringing back some face-to-face stuff a little bit more. So,
Here. I
yeah.
agree.
It's getting a little, I mean, as a bank, we've opened up again. So we can still do it, maintaining the mask, maintaining the distance. There's still ways of doing it safely. And as I said, if someone still feels strongly about maintaining the Zoom portion, we can probably, with Lauren's expertise, have them join that way. So that being said, so that's what I'm.
Bill,
Do you have a target?
real quick question.
Sure, Paul.
Is there a requirement to have it in the annex if we do it in person? Just because we should get Paige and Sam's thoughts about if that'll be open again, if it needs to be in there.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I'm putting that out there, and there's no requirement of where we meet, as far as that's just the posting of the meeting, but that's still, that annex room is ideal because of the space that we can still give to each other around the table. We can, give more than 6 feet. We met with Sheri on last week. There were only 4 of us in the room, 5 of us in the room, and but the communication was great. And it's just nice to have more of a personal contact. I could see hands raised, and it just, I'm looking forward.
Oh, I'm all for it. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I just
No.
want to make sure we have a venue. Yeah,
I put that out right now, and it would not happen like we're just going to do it. It's going to be within the parameters that everyone's comfortable with. So,
So we have the town's approval to do it. It's just a matter of when we feel comfortable.
I don't know yet, and I'll broach
okay.
that subject
All
with John. And as I said, today the governor came out with announcements of restrictions being lifted in some areas, and we're in March. So March, April, May. I just foresee us probably getting, as we get closer to summer, that, as I said, we might still have masks on, but the town might be open, so like that. So I just want to put it on the radar of what my thought process is moving forward and trying to look past COVID, and because I think that'll help all around. So,
Well, if we can do it at the annex, maybe if the town government approves, we can have it at Manana.
yeah, but we have to be able to have the public there also.
As long as they buy a drink, right?
And they'll always be the first one saying drinks on the house, and Justin will be like, "Oh, geez."
I knew George was going to say something like that.
We had to.
We can sit out in the lawn.
I will pay for the margarita.
So just to pull it back, so for the standpoint of time frame on the forum, I will get that all out to you. You will have the minimum of the. We usually like to have a full week beforehand for you guys to get to hand out whatever, or to outreach to the businesses. I think we could probably pull it off by the end of the month if everything works right, because we've done it before, and I just think it's a good way to start. Follow up ones, I'd still like to go back to the Navi Retail and maybe the social media advertising and such, which had been very pronounced that a lot of them have not been doing it, but I do know of some specific businesses that have been utilizing it and doing very well with it.
So Bill, I would suggest for the forum that you simplify it. That's my suggestion, to a particular, have multiple forums, but have a forum for a specific industry or group, maybe for retail and restaurants. So then you are focusing on issues and conversations that only pertains to that market space.
We
And then
have
have
done that
a
before,
forum for,
and I don't disagree with that if we were doing something specific, because we've done that for like the restaurant thing. Something like with a sector, I think it's more inclusive. Something with the social advertising that was disclosed. I don't think it's one sector specific. I think a lot of the businesses can utilize it, and I'd rather be much more inclusive and try to
Well,
drive.
they have the money, by the way.
Yeah,
They have
yeah.
the money to differentiate, and it would also help them to get recognition of the name of sector in the different clusters independently, and being able for Nancy, and obviously Sheri knows a lot, but being able to those people like Justin and his cohorts to understand who Nancy is and who Sheri is. Otherwise, if we're going to mix and mingle the different industry in the forum for sector, it's very difficult. I mean, sector has been around for a long time. And Justin, sector is within the city of Groton.
I
It's
agree.
the city of Groton.
I
The fact
agree with,
Okay,
I
George.
agree with Bill. I think we should keep it open to the broader businesses, because I think it would be non-inclusive, and I think it's important to allow whoever wants to participate.
Yeah.
Understanding what
Well,
you're trying to say.
Let's go back to what the whole purpose, George. The purpose of the forums is us to have an avenue to go out to outreach to businesses. And COVID was restaurant specific, but I met with a lot of other non-restaurant businesses that were just as impacted by COVID. So I really want these to be something that will take on a life of their own from an EDC standpoint for our outreach. And that's really what the whole focus is on it. So if there's a specific topic to an industry on a certain forum, we can do those. And we don't have to do it on a quarterly basis. We can pull that up if we need to. Hey, this is something that needs to be addressed. But I'm trying to bring more businesses into what is available in a community like a Groton for everybody.
Well, the money at sector is finite. And while the money is with sector, that's what I'm trying to suggest. While they still have the money, you work out with them to break into 2 different forums or 3 different forums.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily finite, and they do not just do one specific industry. They do a variety of different industry and such like that. The specific one you're discussing was the COVID related, but they have the capital lending that goes through, as she stated, that the loan originally done through the theater has been lent out 10 more times. So there's a lot more than that. So point well taken, but I think we should be more inclusive. So that moves me to the next thing for the
Can I say
for
something?
retail. Yep, Justin.
George, I
Yeah.
appreciate your support very much, but I do agree with Susan and Bill that don't make it exclusive. If we're going to do it, don't make it exclusive, because they're not going to talk about individual industries every time. They're going to talk about what they can do for any type of business. So it's like, I think don't scare people away being like, oh, I have a struggling retail business, or I want to start one, or I want to open a cafe, but oh, it's only for retail this meeting. Like, don't exclude them, because I think the math is kind of the same. It's them getting the information. So I wouldn't exclude it. I just make it open and let them know who they are.
Yeah, I think that's the route I think we should be going. So now there's a follow-up, which is under the new business, but it's something that Lauren had sent out an email, because this was not specific to any business thing like that. But when Nava Retail did their follow-up, there were 2 things that came up, and I already supplied them with my feedback, but the participation for PPP was one of them, and the other programs out there, and also a difficulty of PPE of finding. Now, I don't know if you guys have talked to anyone on those questions. I would encourage you, if you haven't, to try to get some feedback. I haven't seen it. I could give you firsthand about the PPP. Is a lot of people just that didn't participate either didn't need it because they were doing well, or they didn't understand it and they thought it was a chance thing. And we've kind of gone back to some of those people. But PPE is one thing. I haven't seen any shortages of PPE anywhere. And I didn't know if anyone else has heard that or seen that, or was it an old question, or is it a perception, because God, you can't go into a store without seeing PPP everywhere at this point in time. So didn't know if anyone's gotten feedback from any of their businesses.
Well, I am noticing that, speaking of masks, this is trivial, but all of a sudden they're specific about what mask you can wear. If you come here, if you go to the doctor's or whatever, you have to wear the, the blue mask because they want it to bend over your nose. So they don't like any of these gaiters. They don't like any of those sort of, ones you buy in the store. Just, I don't know if anybody's seen that, but it's interesting. Not that it's, particularly relevant right now, but it is seemed to be more prevalent these days for some reason.
Yeah, and from that standpoint, though, I've still seen plenty of those surgical type masks out in the market. So I don't know. We didn't have a specific what was the question they were responding to, and that's why I didn't know if anyone else has heard it, because I see it all over the place, and I know the bank hasn't had an issue of finding it. Early on, we did, but I was more concerned as like, well, I didn't know that was an issue. So I guess my feedback is when you're talking to the businesses, ask them. These are two things that came up on the survey, and we just like some feedback. Is this the case? So, Justin, you had a question?
Oh, no, I was going to tell you, we get a lot more people in a restaurant than you get in your bank.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
I have not had an issue with finding sanitizer, face masks, anything. Like, that is a non-issue anymore. And the prices have come way, way down.
Right. And as I said, I that's why when that one specific question came up, I was like, I haven't seen that at all. And and without having a specifics how the question was asked, or is it a perception, or is it a so that as I said,
it's a non-issue.
I don't think it's rampant.
No. You're right.
Feedback. What I would ask is, as I said, we feel that way. If you're talking to the businesses, see if they see that way, because maybe that is a just a perception, and it's not the case. So,
I think we have some more Groton masks, so we can dig those out.
I try to wear mine all the time, and people are like, "Where'd you get that?"
I love those masks, and they're washable too. It's great.
They don't pull your ears forward. Just saying.
No. Yeah, we don't want those ears.
Don't want those ears going forward like that. So moving on from the chair report, there was one thing that when we discussed, and I offered, and I would encourage anyone, and I don't know what exactly the time is, but Paige brought up to me that, we've since I've been on the commission, and some others that have been on here, the same, Susan and George and Craig, that going back, all these buildings and developments that we've heard about, we did the site walks, and they're all coming to volition now. And there's some really good stuff happening with that. And of course, now they're getting a bit of a pushback from other interests saying, why are we doing this? We need, like the letter we got last week, more open space, whatever. So what I had said to Paige, I'd be happy to do, we're giving we've submitted the annual report, but I'm happy to speak to the town council, not only on any questions they might have on that, but on also some of these projects that we have supported and brought forward, because I think it's important, agreeing with all the efforts that staff has done, is if they're hearing from the loud ones and they're not hearing from the other side, they might start double guessing us. And I hate to see all our hard work and all of staff's hard work kind of get lost in that. So when I get a date, if they want to go with that, I'm happy to speak on behalf of the entire commission, but I would really appreciate any support, because it's easy for me to get up and say something, but if there are other commissioners saying, hey, we listen to people and this is what we've put forward on it. So that's what'll be coming up forward. As I said, when I have more specific dates, and if it's in between meetings or whatever, we'll make sure we get it out to you guys. But any support for participation would be greatly appreciated. And I've seen some of those town council meetings. they'll probably put me on at the last portion of it and everyone will be sleeping and whatever, but I'm willing to do it. So with that, I'm gonna, yep.
The town, I'm sorry, the town council meeting is still through Zoom, right? I mean, they're not meeting in person.
I believe so. I
Okay.
mean, I've seen them
they
where
are.
John
They
has
are.
been actually in the town hall, you know, in the annex, I think, running whatever, but they're done by Zoom is the last ones I've seen. Paige?
Yeah, that is correct, to answer your question, but also I wanted to do a recap. You know, the EDC knows that we have to submit an annual report, and they've been good at doing that over the past few years. A while ago, I think we had gone nearly 8 years or so without a report, but for the past 5, 6
I think it
years,
was 20 years.
the EDC has provided an annual report. And I think in the past, it was just looked upon as a requirement. Over the past few years, it actually has been a real useful tool. It's been used to support economic development, programming, budgeting, initiatives, and all of that. So here we are. Last year, the report was submitted, but due to COVID, there was not a presentation. There is no requirement for a presentation, but I have to say, it's been helpful. I know Susan has provided a presentation. I think maybe Catherine in the past did one. Craig, I think, may have done one. So they've been really helpful. And here we are. We have a lot of projects in the pipeline, and that's great. But we're also receiving a lot of attention. Believe it or not, a lot of good attention, but the vocal minority is capturing the airwaves at the moment. And it would be a good time to do a presentation with the EDC report and to help bolster and round out the support from the EDC as to why these projects are important, and maybe just keep the pressure on a little bit to keep our momentum moving forward.
I agree.
Very good. With that segue, Paige, you're up now under staff report.
Okay, I'll try to move this along. So Nancy and Sheri had mentioned earlier this afternoon, Governor Lamont had announced that March 19th is the official relaxation of some of the COVID requirements, particularly the occupancy limits for restaurants and retail. Not to say that there won't be safety protocols, masks, social distancing, et cetera, are still going to be required. Also, bars are not open. But it is good to see that we're moving, I think, in the right direction. So today is kind of a pivotal day. We've been waiting for some relief, and I think it's coming. Regarding our response, we continue to put the assistance information for COVID on our website. Also, I won't go into detail about PPP, but Nancy already covered that. If there was no additional funding, we were concerned that funding would run out in this current PPP round, probably by the third week of this month, but hopefully there would be more coming along. There is an ongoing long-term recovery committee that meets monthly. They met on February 24th. That includes Groton elected officials. We have state senators, state reps, staff, et cetera, trying to collaborate on that front. In terms of marketing, there's going to be a special spotlight on Connecticut with Site Selection Magazine. They have targeted Connecticut as their state for the month of March. We're going to run an ad, a 2/3 page ad on that. Hopefully it gets bookended in some way with Electric Boat. So we're looking forward to that coming out. We think the governor will have some coverage in that magazine as well. Sam and Lauren have been working on a social media marketing campaign. It'll be dedicated towards the importance of using Google, such as claiming your business, accurate, updated information, making sure that it's shown, the importance of the reviews, and how to handle negative reviews. That's a program that they'll be working on and will be rolling out shortly.
Oh, Paige, can I just say one thing on that?
Yes.
As Paige said, that we'll be rolling out shortly. We actually expect within the next few weeks we'll get started, and it's going to be over the course of at least 4 weeks and maybe continuing in the near future. You know, this is a method or a tool that you can use to keep in touch with the businesses on your list. You know, maybe you're already friends with or connected with them on Facebook. So what you could do is you could follow Groton Economic Development on Facebook, and when these types of posts come up that talk specifically about the importance of digital marketing, you know, maybe you could forward those over to people on your list and make sure that that gets in front of them. Again, we saw this on Never Retail. You know, an alarming number or percentage of businesses have no online presence, and you know, they may be so swamped that they're not even actively working to get up to speed. But these social posts are designed to be, you know, quick and easy and visually appealing to help people understand that it's just a few steps and that it's really important. So it's just one more way for you guys to support the businesses that are on your list. Thanks, Paige.
Thank you, Sam. There's an ongoing Mystic parking study, and the committee meets once a month. They're getting close to concluding that. There'll be a report that is issued by the spring. I've mentioned this before. It has included an inventory looking at existing challenges, particularly peak times, and people already know that, but also trying to find out what are the best strategies. Some of them will be fee-based. There'll probably be a recommendation regarding on-street parking regulation, of which there is none today. And also possibly looking at opportunities of off-street in certain areas where parking could be possible, but has yet to actually be used. Economic Assistance Fund, PVC is quite familiar with that. We've been successful. We did a presentation to the council on February 9th and also the RTM February 10th. We talked about the success of the program and the projects and how a small partnership and investment has paid significant dividends moving forward. And it appears that there is strong support to continue the program. The balance is getting fairly low. It's getting down around $100,000 at this point in time. We have put in a request to the council for the budget, and we're hopeful that we will get some additional funding in this particular budget year.
Paige, what are you looking for in terms of budgeting for that item?
We put a placeholder in, I believe, 50,000. We're getting a little bit of support from the council saying they may actually want to double that.
Okay, great.
The next bullet I've been dancing around for a while, dealing with industrial property interest. At this point, I will explain that on Monday, the state Senate did approve the data center legislation. And we have had significant interest in national firms looking at key industrial properties in Groton to build data centers. And we'll have more information on that to come, but we're actually pretty excited about that and believe that that use will be a significant contributor to Groton's economy moving forward. So stay tuned on that front. It will be a pretty fast moving project over the next couple months. Another project, market rate housing. So a couple of years ago, I think I was asked, what is the number one thing Groton needs? I've always said market rate apartment housing, and that may have been perplexing to a lot of people, but I wasn't the only one that thought that, and we're having tremendous interest from investors. So the next question is, with the roughly 20,000 daily commuters that come into Groton that live elsewhere and spend their money elsewhere with the money that they earn in Groton, how many would actually live here? And what would be the capture rate and a future ceiling for the demand and housing units. We're doing that study as a part of this particular effort. So we'll look at what's in the pipeline, what's in a regional economy market area with a reasonable drive time, start to make some assumptions on what we think the demand will be over the next 5 years. Federal trade zone, as Sheri had mentioned, sector and the city of New London held a federal trade zone workshop. We did participate in that. The federal trade zone has been expanded beyond New London. Now it includes any municipality within New London County. Quick reference regarding bird scooters and Pedigo bikes. Pedigo bikes will be operational this spring in the Groton family farm location. We're also having interest from bird scooters to possibly enter the Groton market at some point in time. Regarding key properties, I think everyone's heard recently plenty about Mystic Education Center or Mystic River Bluffs. There is a strong vocal minority right now, particularly with the Planning and Zoning Commission addressing the zoning draft. Having said that, there is a strong number of positive responses that are coming through as well. And you may have seen the op-ed piece that went into the day from the town council. That has really brought a lot of interest out from people that support the project. And we've known that all along, that the majority of the people, they understand that that project needs to be redeveloped, but unfortunately it's those that might be the abutters to the property that are the ones that are being heard the loudest. And we need to be considerate regarding the neighborhood, but the community at large does support that project.
Hey, Paige, can I jump in and say, I see a lot of people every week that are from Groton, and I've heard so many conversations about this property. And 95% of the conversations I've heard have been for the development of it. Like, everyone wants, they think it's a great tax base. It's possibly a place for their kids that can afford to live locally, and a new part of the community. So I think it's a great thing.
Thank you.
Paige, I did, there's been conversation about communication, information, transparency and the like, as you were talking about with some opposition. It's probably not the forum right now, an opportunity for me to just sort of dive into some of the questions and concerns, but I would like to, perhaps have a conversation with you so that at least I can convey some information and reassurances. So maybe we can at another juncture, but I want to make that known tonight so that you and I could perhaps, arrange another conversation beyond the meeting.
I appreciate that. And we've always tried to do what we can in getting information out. I think that we can always do better. However, much of the information is somewhat beyond our control. A lot of it is between the state and the developer, and the state owns the property. But I think you heard Nancy mention earlier that they're working with Corsi and Company. Corsi is the public outreach company for the Respler Homes development team. Part of the responsibility is on the developer to try to get the information out. Part of it is on the town. Part of it is on the public as well. Believe it or not, we don't receive that many direct inquiries and conversations with the public, but we do hear their complaints. So I think all of us can do a better job in trying to understand what the truth is in moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And there may be that. And so there's again, this perception, which I think is important. Again, it may not be, as Justin's saying, the vast majority of people, but it's the people that are impacted perhaps that are most concerned. And I think it's really, like you said, important to make sure that there's those concerns are addressed. So I can let you know what those questions are, at another juncture.
There'll be a survey going out over the next few weeks. It's a phone survey from Great Blue. They will represent the town. They've been hired by the town, actually, to ask some questions of the public at large regarding their sentiment regarding the project, what types of uses they support inside the Pratt building, recreation versus maybe splitting it for a performing arts, theatrical function. Those types of questions will be answered. I think they're still targeting the release of that survey by the end of March at the latest.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry?
Thank you. Sorry.
Groton Heights, which has been kind of idle. We've had some active conversations. We're hoping to have an agreement to the council within 90 days. The project was never in jeopardy, but there were some delays as a result of a small business that was growing. And of course, COVID impacted them. So hopefully we'll have something before the council by summer. Gold Star Highway, we've had some recent approvals, and we are going to the RTM for final approvals on that at 529 Gold Star. That'll be another multifamily apartment complex with Lennar, which is, I believe, the third largest multifamily developer in the country. Anticipated tax revenue from that project is probably about $1 million annually. Next project, Sealy, which is Triton Square. That also will have about a $1 million impact annually to our taxes, and to the plus, I should say. That's also about 300 units, 308, I believe, to be exact. Colonel Ledyard School, we believe sometime this March, this month, we'll have the final option and sales approval on that. So that should advance. Again, it's a much smaller school redevelopment project, about a half a mile from EB within the city. And then the last project, Pleasant Valley School, we are nearing in on a final selection from our shortlisted candidates. So stay tuned on that one. I believe that's all I have at this point.
So, do we know how many employees there are now at EB by chance? I know, and what the growth, the anticipated growth is of that employment, that business?
I'm going to give an answer, but I think Sam may have some information as well. He was able to participate in the legislative breakfast that EB had a few weeks ago, but I think they have somewhere, this is around 14,000 employees at this point in time. And of course, the trajectory is much higher over the next few years. Sam, do you have a comment on that?
Sure. So what they told us at the legislative update was that they did hire between Connecticut and Rhode Island. They actually hired 2,000 employees in 2020. So that's pretty impressive considering everything that everybody was dealing with. For 2021, the focus remains on Quonset Point, about 1,300, and then about 900 hires they expect for between Groton and New London. Some of those are going to be engineering and design, and they could be either side of the river. In terms of Groton operations, in terms of the shipyard right now, that number is still going to be not large right now. They have 100 to 300 targeted, but that was actually bumped up because of an extra contract that they have regarding the USS Hartford. and kind of a refueling, a renewing of the engine core on that boat. But the other thing that they said was, as the Columbia boat shed is going to be wrapped up early in 2023, that's when they're going to be ramping up employment hiring for the shipyard. Those big module components are going to start coming over by barge from Quonset Point. So, and really, in the grand scheme of things, that's going to be right on top of us before we know it. So the idea that they are committed to, their contracts are coming through, and they see these ramp ups happening right here in Groton in the coming years. It's really confidence building, I'd say, for the market.
Well, thanks, Sam. I think back, and I don't know if I had the number correct, but I believe at the time, in the heyday when EB and of course Pfizer were, just booming, I think they had at least 27,000 employees at that time. And of course, then they had the BRAC issue and the shrinking of that yard. So, and the business. So, I mean, I know that this is great, everything's growing, but we always say we want to put too many eggs in one basket between EB and Pfizer, and looking down 15, 20, 25 years, are we going to be in the same boat? I know this is kind of, you always want to think ahead, and I know we can't really do that. It's not realistic, but I don't know if that's, if we see a long range opportunity and low level risk. Again, we can't do anything about it. I'm just curious if we do that kind of study.
Well, one thing I'll say.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Paige. Appreciate it. Just to follow up another comment that they made at the legislative update, and again, that information was the most current information that they could provide. Senator Blumenthal was on that phone call, Governor Lamont. The way that they frame it is that they've never had this much work in front of them in the history of Electric Boat. And it's a little different because it's probably spread out in terms of multiple decades, as opposed to the earlier, really active years that they had. They were probably working really quickly, but the amount of work that they have actually takes them, in through the 2030s. And the way they put it is, if somebody gets hired to work in the shipyard right now, they can look at a 20-year career without any threat of being furloughed, because they expect the workload to remain high beginning in the next few years. So from their standpoint, especially with the Navy contracts that they signed in the fall, it's as promising as you can really ask for. Thanks, Paige. If you want to follow up on that.
That's good to know.
Well, actually, Sam,
Sure.
I have a lot of friends at EB.
Yeah.
So they signed a 15 boat contract for the new class?
It's 2 at a time, but they signed for the first 2 at 9.5 billion back in the fall.
But it's projected to be 15 boats.
That's exactly right.
So there's a huge retirement rate right now. My friends who work there, who are not engineers or designers, they're actually welding stuff. All they're doing right now is training people. Training to help them work on the new boats. I'm not worried about EB.
That's a great point. There was a big focus on how many different initiatives they're bringing in order to improve that pipeline of qualified folks, whether it's on the job training programs or the other manufacturing pipeline. So yep, that aligns with what they said, Justin. Thank you.
And Sam, their deal with Grasso.
That was Yeah, that's ongoing. They didn't mention that in this presentation, but yes, that's an ongoing resource as well.
Oh, no, it's, they are willing to hire anyone out of Grasso Tech,
Right.
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
great. It's great.
Well, that's
It's like
reassuring
Groton
as you
kids.
can get.
One of the key graphs or illustrations that I recall that EB has been consistent on, I wish I had at my fingertips right now. Best I can do is pretend I'm a college professor. It kind of looks like that, if you can see it. Like that, huh?
Carl
But
Rove.
basically, the worst moment in terms of jobs is right now. There was a dip that Sam talked about. After that, and it's filled with some short-term projects.
Right.
After that, it begins to go up exponentially.
Yeah.
So we're talking the next couple decades. All of the work that we've been doing is not for current workload. It's for an anticipated uptick that is right around the corner. The first Columbia class sub will be, it'll be basically done in 2023, I believe. I was on a submarine supply chain webinar a couple days ago. Everything was about EB. They asked all of the EB high-level managers, they had frank conversations. It was an industrial workshop. What is your number one concern? It wasn't workforce. It was time frame, meeting the tough schedules. They didn't have any issues in the design. It's advanced, the production, they were confident with that, but in actually putting out the work that they see coming for the next 10 years. So I think that gets to your question, Susan, about, how long do we anticipate this to go? No one has a crystal ball, but we're not talking a year, 5 years, we're talking decades.
So that's great. So basically, does that category of employees fall into the 80% that don't live here? Are they in that lump of the workforce? Are we thinking are going to be?
Well, that's a key question. It's a snapshot in time right now. We talk about the 80%.
Yeah.
In light of the 1/3 of the current workforce ready to their retirement eligible, our goal is when they fill an existing position with a younger worker, we're hoping to pick up that younger worker so they do not become a part of the 80%. They become part of a growing number that becomes a resident of Groton.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think to the point, though, is that 20,000 number you throw out there is not built in with the number we're anticipating that will be happening in the future. That's kind of where we are today. We're addressing, and another aspect, because we've discussed this, I remember when I first came on, is we recognize what happened with EB before. So we never want to lose sight that we have a lot of other really good stuff going on in Groton other than EB, but EB is like that great base to work with. But even Nancy brought up the research being done, they're trying to get built or finished out on Avery Point, the aquaculture stuff. We got Theramehan. There's a lot of really good stuff also that we're building off of this. So I don't think all our eggs are in the basket, but it's not bad to have EB as one of the large eggs in that basket.
And the good news is we won't have another BRAC if we have EB who's actually building the subs that are, right next door. So that's a good, reduces that risk.
Correct.
Thank you all.
So Paige, can I interject?
Interject away, George.
So to your point, Paige, yeah. So one of the reasons that the issues that these supply chains are having is time, and the time relates to identifying suppliers for this new state-of-the-art Columbia submarine and the next batch, because they still are looking for the new cutting-edge technology, the new cutting-edge development, the new cutting-edge R&D work, so that they could fit in and develop the next Columbia class. So in terms of submarine development, we've got potentially from what I am told, about close to 30 years of work, which includes not the US government, but also governments elsewhere that General Dynamics have contracts for to help retrofit and improve and whatnot. But that is one cluster. Then we also have another cluster, which is the undersea cluster that germinates from the work that happens at EB in naval underwater research to relate to undersea cluster, which is what we are trying to build out as Blue Tech. And that is another cluster that will grow in time in terms of sustainability and creating food, creating pharmacology, creating new kind of environments and whatnot. It's all communication and everything else undersea will translate to onshore. So that kind of a technological revolution and work is also going to be hubbed here in Eastern Connecticut, if not Southeastern Connecticut. This will become the Silicon Valley of undersea technology. Now, coupled with that, we also have the burgeoning wind energy technology of assembly and whatnot that is happening, which will also result in additional R&D of the supply chain. So we have 3 supply chain environment in this region, excluding, of course, our tribes. So we are in a very, very blessed region of the state. We are very, very blessed.
Thank you, George. Hey, Paige, did you want to finish up your report? I think you still had some.
I think I was done. I think I'm all set. Yeah,
No, that's fine. I just don't overtake you out of your time.
thank you.
Liaison reports. Now I have Jill and husband on the line. So one is representing Jill, of course, is for the RTM. And Jill, I forgot your husband's name already because it was a while ago.
Sorry, Jason.
He's our liaison.
Oh, look who's there.
Correct?
Hey, George.
So I actually don't even have a report to give you. There's nothing really from the RTM to share. So, but thank you.
You came to show off your husband.
I get to show off my husband. There's that. Yeah.
You're an Irishman.
And this is my first time formally attending the Town Economic Development Commission meeting, and I appreciate you allowing me to zoom in with you. And I could just add to the previous conversation by saying I joined Electric Boat 3 years ago, knowing that there would be plenty of longevity for the rest of my career. So I'm confident in the next couple of decades of submarine building.
And that's great. And you know, one thing I always like about our liaisons is we had Adam Wright from the Navy that recently took on. The input that we get from liaison is invaluable because you guys are doing things that we're not aware of. So I always encourage if it's even just something I want to share that's going on, please do, because we've gotten some great information. And I see our liaison as one of the stronger portions of our commission. So thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations to the new job. Yeah.
Thank you, George.
And feel free to do different computers if you want, but date night works, you know, guaranteed once a month.
Right.
Okay, any other business to come before the commission tonight?
Just a question. Do we still have liaisons? Are they just are not participating when they don't have time from town council and the chamber and all?
Town council, as far as I know, they still are. It's been COVID time constraints. Mm-hmm. From the chamber standpoint, I have contacts now with inside the Mystic Main Street merchants, and I'll broach it. I think it's just what has occurred with COVID, and that they have kind of lost a little bit of their organization structure. So that's one I would like to get back on ASAP.
Mystic Main Street?
There's the Main Street, the merchants, Mystic Main Street merchants.
Downtown Mystic Merchants.
Right. So that's like a subgroup, but also the other, the Groton business and also the main chamber. I would like to get them back on board ASAP because it helps us to know what's actually going on.
You don't be the president there, Bill.
Huh?
Why don't you be the president of the Mystic Chamber? Paige will nominate you.
Yeah, if I can find an extra 15 minutes somewhere, George, I'll do that. But hey, I'll put your name in if you'd like.
Is,
Well, that's
um,
right. You don't deal with retail. So,
Is
all
Rachel,
right. So here you
So,
go.
hold on. Quick
Is-
question.
is Rachel still the liaison, or we don't know who the liaison for the town council, or is it Leanne or?
Well, I think Rachel took some time away. So as far as I know, it is Leanne, and she has
Okay.
been on a couple times.
Yeah, okay. Just curious.
And there's always communication with Leanne and Paige, and so she's probably more in tune. But I would rather, my real priority is let's make sure that the chambers, the business groups are on board, because as I said, that's where we get a lot of information that we're not aware of on the street. So
Yeah, and I like town council to be, also,
Sure.
but I agree with you on the chamber. Okay, thank you.
thank you, Susan.
Bill, hold on.
Yep, I'm holding.
Jill was with EB.
The city,
No,
Yes,
Jill
town.
is with,
City.
town.
Jill is
town.
with RTM.
Did
Jason is
we
with the
lose
city.
our? Oh, yeah.
We'll get you a
We did
scorecard.
lose. But did we lose our person from the base?
Adam got promoted from last meeting. We gave him a thanks, but he did take another
Yes, I
position.
saw that. I was there.
From my understanding with my conversation is they are looking to replace his position. At first, they may not have, but they will be. But when they do, we'll have them on board, whoever it might be.
Okay.
So
Well,
that
thank
is
you.
our-
Aaron, by the way.
Can we send a thank
I'll
you
talk to some
for
people.
his, a thank you to Adam for being that he won't be liaison, just so we can recognize him somehow
Well,
for.
I tried to give him a nice recognition last meeting, but if you mean to send something to him,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yes,
know.
send him something.
He was just, he's great.
Send him the page.
no, I think we have some Explore Groton mugs and face masks.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good idea.
Just an email thanking him from.
No,
all of
I
us.
agree. I'll figure out something.
Thank
So
you.
go all the way back. Go all the way back.
We'll put something together.
I
We'll
can
send them.
tacos.
We'll send a burrito down to Virginia too,
Yeah,
right?
we'll get a burrito box and, all right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
I'll make a
moved.
motion.
What about Aaron?
Second.
Aaron's just still finishing up on the projects they're doing they're bringing online, I guess
I think he's still there.
Aaron's there?
Attendees, he's still there, I think. Yeah, he's still there. Are you there, Aaron? He's got his hands
I don't-
raised.
Lauren,
Aaron.
Aaron Brooks. All right.
Aaron, you
Yeah,
there?
Aaron Brooks. Yeah, I'm here. I didn't get the link, so I'm just a public.
That's why I
viewer.
never saw you. I'm sorry. Good.
No. It's all good. I'm just a public viewer today, just a fan.
Okay, well, I always appreciate it because we get your report anyway. So regardless, I always get to see what's going on with your guys. So anything to share, Aaron?
I was late, but I'm happy to be a fan. So thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
So motion's still on the floor. Are we gonna?
Motion's on the floor to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'm hungry. Yes.
All in favor?
Second.
All in
Aye.
favor? Meeting's
Aye.
adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Be in touch.
Have a great month.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.